was singing over me. For you have been so, so good to me. For I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. Yes, you did. For you have been so, so kind to me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, but still you gave yourself away. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. Sing from the heart. For you have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. For you have been so, so kind to me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, but still you gave yourself away. All the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. That's right. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. worth it. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. Every moment with you, yeah. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. All you've done and will do. Sing it with me. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. Every moment with you, my King. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. All you've done and will do. Come on. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. Every moment with you, yeah. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. All you've done and will do. One more time. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. Every moment with you, yeah. Your love is perfect. Your love is worth it. Everything that you do. Holy, overwhelming, never-ending, perfect love of God. And oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, till you gave yourself away. Holy, overwhelming, never-ending, perfect love of God. It's chasing me. Thank you, Jesus. People come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. So don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus.
Second Corinthians 9:7 and 8 says, "You must each decide in your heart how much to give, and don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, for God loves a person who gives cheerfully, and God will generously provide all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. Your generosity allows Newsoul Ribera to produce and broadcast services to people in need of hope. And your giving helps provide a way to keep meeting together online during the COVID-19 crisis. You are also helping to provide food and other essentials for people in the valley. We have 2 quick and easy ways for you to give. By mail, Newsoul Church Ribera, 7311 Glen Rio Road Northwest, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87121. Or you can give online, newsoulribera.com. That's newsoulribera.com.
I'm Newsoul Ribera. It is wonderful to be with you again today. We're in for a special treat. Today's a lot different than our normal message times. Today we have some guests that will be talking to us about their journey through COVID-19. And so, there's been so much misinformation about this pandemic. So many of you that are watching and that are listening are full of anxiety and stress and fear about the unknown. And all of us are going through the same thing. And so today, I want to share their story with you. And as you're watching, invite someone, get them to tune in. If you're sharing this, share this with somebody. I think what they're about to say is going to help you, going to help all of us as we get some more information about what's happening with COVID-19 and how it's affected their lives. So let's just kind of start. Ruben, I'll start with you.
Okay.
Tell us just real quickly a little bit about yourself, where you work, what you do.
Well, I'm new to New Mexico. Got here in March of 2016. I met, who's now my wife, met in October of 16. And we got married last year in March. And as they say, the rest is history.
Good. And you work at the Veterans Administration?
I do.
Okay. So that's where you're at. You work in is that the hospital?
I work in the hospital, in the main hospital. Actually, my office is outside of the main hospital, but I'm a safety specialist there in the hospital.
Okay. And Michelle is my beautiful cousin. So this is family. Michelle is my dad and her mom are brother and sister.
That's right.
Michelle, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Well, my name is Michelle, as Stevie said, and I'm an accountant. I work for a utility company here. I've been with them for over 14 years. 3 kids, 2 grandkids, married. Good life.
Good luck. So let's just kind of start on why did you guys get tested? How did that even happen?
So back in June, the middle part, second week of June, I believe it was. I want to say it was on the 10th of June. And so I was at work. I had this cough, and I had a headache that just wouldn't go away. And later on, I asked one of my coworkers who had a thermometer that we'd been checking our temperatures early on when COVID started, and we kind of backed off of it. I asked him if he had the thermometer still in his office, and he says, yeah. So I checked my temperature. I was running 100-degree temperature. And it kind of worried me, and so I messaged my boss, who didn't reply. I emailed my boss and still didn't reply. So I sat in my office for about 45 minutes before I got a message back. And he says, well, what are my symptoms? And I told him.
It was just the cough?
No, it was a cough, it was a headache, and it was cough, headache, and a fever. And
so you knew you had a fever?
I knew I had a fever.
Okay.
I actually took my temperature, and I knew I had a fever. And I asked him, I think I should go home, and we need to figure out what's going on with me. And so we have an office called Employee Health. And so he contacted Employee Health. They said, go ahead and send him home. So they sent me home, and they were in contact with me ever since that day I left from work. And the following day, they said, can you come in for a COVID test, which I did. That was on Thursday.
And this is what month again?
In June.
In June, okay.
Right. So that evening, Thursday evening, I went ahead. I wasn't feeling well, but I went ahead and went in and got the COVID test. But the results weren't going to be back till Monday.
Okay.
And so went through Thursday. Friday, I had abdominal pain, and then still had the symptoms of the headache, the fever, and so we went to sleep on Friday. Saturday morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with abdominal pains. I just couldn't bear it anymore. So off we go to the ER. I gave them the spiel that I had already taken a COVID, and I was possible COVID positive. So they did what they call a rapid test, which is a 2-hour turnaround, and it came back positive. So at that point, I immediately called my wife, called Michelle. I told her, you need to go ahead and get a test and have Marina tested just as well, which is my daughter, staying there at the house. And their test came back positive. So I was kept in the hospital for a 24-hour observation. The abdominal pain came to be a blockage in my intestine. And so I was in the hospital on Saturday. I wasn't released till the following Monday.
Okay. So you were in the hospital 3 days?
3 days.
3 days. So even before we get into the symptoms, because I want to know kind of what your symptoms were, I want you to describe abdominal pain. I think of something, I think probably everybody who's watching has their own in their mind what abdominal pain feels like to them. And so I'll let you describe a little bit about that. But maybe, Michelle, you can talk before even we get into that. What was your opinion about COVID and the coronavirus? Like, was it real? What was your thought about it before?
Well, I thought if we're shutting down a whole entire economy, then this has to be serious. I know you and I had a conversation one day saying, take care of your mother, right? And you were like, it's kind of just like the flu though, right? And I was like, yeah, but people are dying, right? So for the most part, we we took it very serious. I mean, we were wearing gloves, we were wearing a mask even before masks were mandated. We were keeping a very small interaction circle. We didn't interact with very many people. So we had taken it pretty serious. I mean, and thankfully we had our family that we had interacted tested, and none of them were tested positive. So it was a very isolated event for our family.
So let's, Ruben, let's talk even, maybe you can answer that question. What did you think of coronavirus before you had it?
So we were on vacation in Texas, and we were coming back from the coast, and we were kind of keeping track of it, and it just kind of hit us while we were on vacation because we got a call from New Mexico saying that we couldn't get any toilet paper. And so that was kind of the start of it as it escalated, because you could see people in the stores and they were just buying everything else off the shelves. And so where we were staying was in San Antonio, so we were hidden. We stopped at a Walmart there at the coast, which was near Aransas Pass in Texas, and we stopped at a Walmart, bought groceries there, and then the following day we were leaving. So we went ahead and we went to a store, and we went to the grocery store, and there's a cop at the entrance just so he could calm down any panics or people trying to storm the store. Mm-hmm. So that was like, wow, that was crazy, to see a cop. It was a physical cop sitting there at the front door. And so at that point in time, I was like, given what we see in the media, and then all of a sudden this panic going on, it kind of hit us. And so the following morning we got up early. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. We were at the store at 6 just to get toilet paper. Mm-hmm. And they were limiting the amount of toilet paper you get, so you get 1 pack. So we got up 6 o'clock in the morning for 1 pack of 4-roll of toilet paper.
Yeah. So you guys were taking it seriously from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys were like, we need to be careful.
Right.
So let's talk through a little bit of the symptoms. So at the beginning, probably a lot of people who are watching and listening are like, okay, so what triggered it? So you had a cough. What could you compare it to? Was it a cough like a phlegm cough?
It's a dry cough.
It's a dry cough. Okay.
I think I started having symptoms before Ruben did. And I just kind of felt drained. I said, hey, I'm not feeling well. I don't know what's going on. Kind of don't push me, because he's like the Energizer Bunny, always on task, getting things done. And I said, if you want to go do things with your daughter, because she had just flown in to visit us from Texas, I said, go right ahead, but I'm tired. I need a nap. I have like a sore throat. And I had a headache that I just could not get rid of. Didn't matter if you took a Tylenol, if you took an ibuprofen, if you took anything. It didn't help at all. And he goes, oh, okay. And then his daughter started saying, man, my allergies are really bothering me. And at the time, the winds were really whipping up, like 40 mile an hour. And so here we thought, oh, your allergies are bothering? Yeah, mine are too. And she came from Texas. It's a lot drier. So, we were taking our allergy medication. And I was like, wow, we're all kind of like feeling yuck. Yeah. And then, and so she was sleeping a lot and I was sleeping a lot. I would get up in the morning, and because I'm working from home, I'd get up in the morning and I'd do like 2-3 hours, and I'd go sleep for 2-3 hours. And I'd wake up and work 2 hours, and then I'd go back to sleep. And he was still going to work thinking nothing of it, right? Like, it's allergies, we're good. But by the time Wednesday hit for him, that's when it
got bad. And so did either of you guys think immediately this could be COVID-19?
Well, I knew something was hitting me. I just didn't know what it was. And I knew I needed to stay away from family. So, I saw my parents, they're like, come in. And I was like, no, I'm just dropping this off. because we had made like 2 racks of ribs, and I was like, I'm just dropping these ribs off. I'm not coming in though, because I'm really concerned about the elderly, you know, the older people, even though they're healthy, so we thought Ruben was healthy, you know, and here he was in the hospital for 3 days. So there was kind of that thought in the back of your head, but you just couldn't say, I have COVID, right?
Well, and what I've heard about this is with this, and it's one of the reasons why, as you're watching, and those of you who are listening, we're talking about this, is that it's not really real until it happens to you. It now becomes personal to you. So let's talk a little bit about your symptoms some more, Ruben. So you're at work. You checked your temperature. What was your temperature at work?
100 degrees.
100?
Yes.
100 degrees. So you're about 1.5 degrees higher than normal.
Right.
You have the same headache as her?
Yes.
The dry cough?
Yes.
Drained?
Not so much.
Okay. But you felt like because of the fever, you probably needed to tell.
I needed to go home.
Okay.
Only because I'm very adamant about if somebody's sick
Yeah.
at work, they
Right.
shouldn't be at work, because you could potentially expose everybody else to whatever you have.
And you're like the safety protocol
Right,
person. That's
right,
your job.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us so you went home, and did the symptoms worsen over time?
Yes,
They got worse.
they did get worse.
So is it a pounding headache? Does it feel like a sinus headache? What does it feel like?
So we and I've read articles where people think it's allergies, and that's what it feels like, you know, because allergies, you get your sinuses, and it drives a headache that just
Right.
won't go away. And so I was thinking the same thing, except for my abdominal pain, where it was just centrally located. I think it was in my upper left area. And so we did
Thought
the
it was the gallbladder.
yeah,
That's what we thought.
yeah, we thought it was a gallbladder. And when I went to the ER, I told the doc my symptoms, and she asked me, she says, well, what do you think it is? I said, I think it's my gallbladder. And she says, I think you're right.
So the
But-
doctor thought you might be right with
Right,
the
but
gallbladder.
we still needed a CAT scan to determine that. And so, long story short, my intestine was blocked.
Did they say that, did COVID-19 trigger that for you?
They did. They did. They told him that it attacks in ways that we don't think of, right? So for him, it attacked his digestive system. For me, it was the headache and the tiredness and the sore throat. But both of us, all 3 of us, because it was his daughter was there as well, all of us stopped smelling, right? We couldn't smell anything.
We lost we
And
couldn't
we couldn't
smell.
taste our food. Like our food just had nothing, no taste at all.
Wow. So does it feel different than the flu?
Well, I think with the normal influenza flu that we think of, I think of body aches, which I didn't have body aches.
I think it affects everybody differently.
Differently. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, so you go in and you get tested, and then, did you get tested right away, Michelle?
I did. I went to UNM.
And when you first found out that it was positive, what was your initial reaction?
So here's the response I got from the doctor at UNM. And she says, I just want to confirm your husband's in the hospital. Yes. Okay. And you and your daughter came in and got tested. Yes. And her name was Marina.
Yeah.
Yes. She said, you're both positive, and I'm really sorry this has happened to you. My thoughts are with you. Good luck. And if you need our services, any emergency services, you're welcome to come back at any time. But basically what happens is the healthcare system feels like you need to fight it. And unless you can't breathe or there's something other that's causing emergency medicine to intervene, your body has to fight.
And so they sent you home.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they sent us home right after the test. We never got to
Did
stay.
they recommend any other course of treatment for you? Water, Tamiflu, anything like that?
Stock up on your fluids, or like fluids, and Tylenol. That's the only thing they suggest.
Did they give you a time frame of how long you can expect the symptoms to last?
They send you home with a pamphlet of information, and they say about 10 days, 10 to 14 days. It's like a 2-week.
2 week. Mm-hmm. And so, Ruben, when you go in, what gets you admitted to the hospital is the intense abdominal pain.
That's correct.
And so just walk us through that experience. You're in on Saturday, and then walk us through the process.
So I'm there Saturday with the abdominal pain. They explained to me that I have blockage in my intestine. Of course, that I'm COVID positive, because that's when I came back out of my CAT scan is when they gave me the news, and of course I called home. At that point, I was kind of relieved, because I was like, okay, finally we have it, and we can move on from this point forward, because it was always the stigma, somebody coughed or sneezed, and you're like, oh, so you got scared. And so after knowing that I had COVID, I was kind of relieved, in the sense that I was beyond that already.
Mm-hmm.
But it did attack your lungs too. You were on oxygen.
Right. So moving forward, they admitted me. I was in the hospital, and little did I know that my oxygen level was dropping. So they put me on oxygen, and I was on oxygen for 3 days. And so I was in isolation for 3 days. If you can think about being in one room with negative air pressure, so negative air pressure is there, air is getting sucked out of the room, so all the cold airs are going on the other side of the wall. And so was really warm in there. And so the beds are lined with vinyl and one sheet, and I was burning up. I already had a fever. And so the only time I saw anybody was when the nurse came in to give me Tylenol.
So how did they get rid of the blockage?
So just through like Miralax
Okay.
and medication, just so that I could pass the blockage.
And once the blockage was resolved,
Once the blockage was resolved, the only thing that I was suffering from was the headache and the fevers.
so that kept going.
That did
For both
keep
of
going.
you guys?
Yes.
I never had a fever.
Okay.
So, but his fever lasted
Week and a half.
10 days.
Yeah.
And we were constantly checking his temperature, checking his oxygen, his O2 saturation. And it was fluids, vitamins, Tylenol. Fluids, vitamins, Tylenol.
When did you guys start feeling better?
So I went home on a Monday. I didn't start really feeling better until the following Wednesday.
So it was just pretty much the symptoms just continued
Right, nonstop.
nonstop. Were you able to sleep?
Yes.
Were you still hungry? Did you eat?
And that was something else. My appetite was, I didn't really want to eat when I was in the hospital. For one, it's just hospital food, and I didn't really care for it. And once I got home, I still wasn't eating as much as I should have, but I just didn't have the eagerness to eat. The hunger just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And nothing tasted good. So you kind of like,
So basically, you just felt kind of cruddy for the next.
Well, cruddy in the sense that I had never felt like that before. And the only thing I could kind of relate it to was, and the women might be, when you're pregnant in the beginning and you're just tired, it's kind of multiplied by like 10 on that. You're just tired.
Just really tired.
Like
You can't get enough sleep.
You can't. You want to, but you're just really, really tired.
So, what would you say to people who are watching? And I'll start with you, Michelle, first. What would you say to people who are watching? What would you want them to know about coronavirus or COVID-19?
Well, the first thing I'd want you to know is that there's more people recovering than there are passing away. And we're here today just as a testament of that. The other thing is, all the symptoms vary a little bit. You know, his daughter, she had a little bit of a headache and some congestion. But she bounced pretty quickly. She bounced back.
Couple of days, she was done.
Yeah, and so for me, it was the lingering headache and the tiredness, but I never had a fever. She never had a fever. But I know for me, something inside of me said, get up, stop sleeping, even though you don't want to, get up and do something. And even with Reuben, I started to tell him, you need to get up. Because I didn't want his lungs to get real lazy. He was already on oxygen. And at one point, he woke up in the middle of the night gasping for air. And that's when I told him, you need to get up. You need to walk around. And so I think mentally, we had to encourage each other to not just lay down, because if we did, we felt like it was just going to keep getting worse.
And either of you have any pre-existing conditions?
None.
None, okay. And Reuben, what would you say to people watching or listening about COVID-19?
I would just say that don't give in to the pandemonia that we see on the media. I think the media drives their numbers based on what you see on TV, and it instills fear in folks. And so it's something that we're dealing with, and there is life after death, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a faithful individual, the only thing we need to fear is God. So trust that He has your best interests. And so for me, it kind of renewed my faith. I looked at gospel readings. I mean, we were reading the gospel it was daily devotionals we were reading. We were looking at videos on YouTube, and it just kind of renewed our faith. And so that was something that kind of helped me along my journey through COVID.
Well, I appreciate you guys sharing your story with us. And I want to take the last few minutes of our time together and just share just a couple of points of encouragement from the story. And first of all is that there's a mystery in our faith, right? I mean, you know, a lot of times people ask the question about COVID-19. I hear people, maybe you've asked this question before, is God allowing COVID-19? Or did God cause COVID-19? Is it a plague? Is it some type of judgment or curse? Or is it something else? Well, the answer is, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. There is a mystery to our faith. And that is that God knows everything, God is in control of everything, and we don't. And so we're at a loss, like little children are when they look, if you have a 2 or 3-year-old and they're looking at you operating your computer or driving your car, they have no idea how the whole thing works. So there is a mystery to things. Second, some of you are asking a lot of questions about, well, if I'm a person of faith, wouldn't God prevent me from getting this illness? I mean, faith isn't like in a magic bubble or glove to keep me from getting the illness? And the answer is no. Faith is not a magic bubble to keep us protected. God's in control. And I think all of this revolves around certainty. We all want certainty. And probably when you guys got the entire time, I imagine for you, was so uncertain. What was going to happen next? Every moment must have seemed like a whole year. Every day must seem like a year. Like, is this going to get worse? Am I going to die? What's going to happen to me? Well, as you're watching right now and you're listening, there is no certainty. There is no certainty. And it bothers us, doesn't it, when we don't have certainty? Sometimes I think some of you may be watching and feeling like, well, I'm angry at life and angry at God because there's supposed to be certainty. It's almost like we feel like it's our American right, that we should know what's going to happen tomorrow. But we don't. None of us knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So the idea of certainty is a myth. It doesn't really exist. What does God want with COVID-19? God wants it to matter. And you were talking, Ruben, about the fact that your faith was renewed in the process. What we have is illustrations from Jesus himself. When he was around people who were sick, they asked Jesus one time, who sinned, this man or his parents? Like, why is he, right? Because we always want to know why. What did I do? Did I miss Bible study that day? Man, I should have gone to church more. Like, what happened, right? Well, Jesus said neither of them sinned. He said this thing happened so that God would get glory. He would get attention. People would begin to look to God. So right now in your life, as you're watching, whatever you're going through, whether you have COVID or your family member does, we don't know what's going to happen with the spread of this disease. Thousands are we're getting many more positive tests. So, eventually, if you just look at the numbers, there's a really good chance somebody close to us is going to be impacted by this. What we know is that regardless of whether, we don't have to know all the answers to the questions. We know that God can make something good come out of it. We know that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And because he is our certainty. Jesus himself walked through the greatest uncertainty that there is. He walked through death itself. He walked through the ocean of death, which, man, that's what we all, as we look at the end of our lives and dealing with the uncertainty, what's on the other side? We don't know. Well, Jesus walked through death. He got to the other side, and he came out of the other side, and he rose from the dead. So I don't know what you're leaning on. As you're watching this, as you're listening to this, maybe the question, if you're not a follower of Jesus, maybe you used to have a relationship with God, maybe you've got hurt from the church or something happened and you're just far away from God. And the question I want to challenge you with as we close is, what are you trusting in? Pain will come for us all. Uncertainty comes for us all, whether it's our job or our kids or our health. Uncertainty comes for us all. And when it does, what will you depend on? Will you depend on yourself, on your own understanding for you to figure it out? Will you depend on the government, a politician, another human being? What will you depend on when your day comes? I want to encourage you to depend on Jesus. Jesus can be trusted. Jesus doesn't change. Jesus will never leave you. Jesus will never forsake you. Their story, like Michelle said, is unique to them. There's been other people who have COVID who had a far different outcome and experience. But what we know for sure is that regardless of what happens, when you put your trust in Jesus, when you reach out to take his hand, he is certainty personified. And he will lead you into your future, regardless of what that looks like. If you are a person who's already a Jesus follower, I want to challenge you with the words of Job, who went through a difficult time and asked the question, why? What happened? He said, Job said at the end, when he was looking back, he talked to God and he said, I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. If you're a person of faith, if you're a follower of Jesus, are you trusting in Jesus, or are you trusting in what you heard about Jesus? You can trust in him with your whole life. He's real. He's alive. Put all of your trust in Jesus. Give him your life. Follow him into the future. He'll be with you wherever you go. I want to give, as we close, a special shout out to medical professionals. I'm sure that as you were in the hospital, Ruben, there's people there every day who are laying their lives on the line for strangers. Strangers.
Yes, absolutely.
And, sometimes we think as people of faith that we need to pray more, just do lots of praying. But aren't we glad that doctors and nurses don't just pray? Aren't we glad that they actually do their jobs and help people? So if you're a medical professional, we just want to tell you thank you. We're so glad that you're out there. God is working through you to bring healing and help and hope to people around you. If you have somebody around you that works in the medical profession, give them a shout out, maybe give them a gift card, something. Let them know how much you appreciate them, because they're working through all of this, making a huge difference in the lives of people. And they're actually the hands and feet of God, of mercy and grace for a lot of sick people. So Ruben and Michelle, I just want to thank you again for sharing a little bit of your story with us today. We're glad that you're here and you're healthy, clean bill of health. No after effects?
A little bit. Just kind of like a fog, like thoughts process, and tired. We still find ourselves like, okay, we've had a long day already, and we go to bed super early or take naps, but I think, I'm hoping that goes away.
You doing better?
I am doing better. I'm doing better in many ways, actually. I did have some fear going back to work, how I was going to be treated because I had COVID,
Yeah.
right? There are certain individuals that, oh, you had COVID,
Yeah.
they step away, right? And then there's others that are glad to see you and welcome you with open hands. And they're like, wow, glad to see you're back. So that opened my eyes a lot, you know? And so I did want to say one thing. We as humans, we want to be in control, right? And we are not in control. So if you can just kind of wrap your head around that and look to Jesus.
That's right.
For the answers.
That's right.
And open your heart and your mind to that, it'll make you a better person, and it makes life a lot easier.
Thank you both for sharing.